you have to be careful of. Be careful not to romanticize your suffering, because I'm really guilty of that. I can go through life and be like, oh, I'm such a masochist. Like, you know, I put myself through all of these like really strenuous and like painful experiences so that I can grow, and it's just like, oh, fuck off, Dirah, you prick. Like, hello everyone, BlackWitchDirah here, Luciferian Witch of the Left Hand Path and Occult Educator. Welcome back to my channel. So apologies for my 2 weeks of absence. I've been in a bit of a rut actually, creative wise. I don't know if that's like a retrograde thing or what, but just none of what I had on my list of things, like content that I wanted to make, just seemed inspiring at all. So I was like, yeah, there's forcing yourself to make a video about something you really can't be asked to fucking talk about is exhausting. And I was just like, you know what, I don't want to fucking do it, and no one can make me, none of you can make me, so I'm not gonna fucking do it. But here I am, I have returned. So today I'm going to talk about how the left hand path and what is involved under that in my practice has changed my life. But first, I'm just going to give you a bit of a rundown for those new here of who I am and what I do. So I am an occult educator, and most of what I do revolves around occult education, funnily enough. So I have courses, programs, I offer one-on-one mentoring, I have courses on baneful magic, working with Santa Mayday, working with demons, other bits and bobs in there. I am the co-founder of Witch Skills, which is an up and coming, got it right that time, occult school online. So we have a demonology course on there, we have a Satanism course, we have occult studies, we have tarot, and much more to come. And I've been mentioning this in my videos for quite a while, but some exciting news. The soft launch is happening in September, meaning that we are looking for people to try out our school for 2 weeks. It's like a 2-week kind of free trial, and so you're going to have access to 2 weeks worth of content on there. And yeah, we're doing this to gather people's feedback, to see what you guys think of it, if it's, you know, kind of up to scratch, any suggestions. So yeah, if you'd like to get involved in that, please email one of the email addresses that I'm going to put in the description of this video, and we will get you on the soft launch so that you can be one of the first to experience witch skills. So that is super exciting. So like I said, the details for that are in the description if you'd like to get involved in that, and of course all of the links to my other bits and pieces are also in the description. So today's topic: how has the left hand path and all that is involved in being on the left hand path changed my life? I don't really know where to start with this video. Big topic, chosen a big one today. So I think what the left hand path offers is a lot of really rapid alchemy, and what I mean by that is just really rapid change through chaos, and then trying to regain order, and then it going back into chaos again. So I think through this really kind of hardcore alchemy, the changes in which you go through are very intense, and it can kind of take a while for you to sort of catch up with yourself. I know for me, I can look at pictures of myself like a year ago and just think like, who the fuck is that? Like, it genuinely causes, you know, some real rapid change within you, and change that lasts, and change that, you know, you don't go back to how you once were. And it's scary because there's a lot of death obviously involved in that. So I'm talking here on kind of like a macro scale in terms of the change, like you know, it's really rapid alchemy, and therefore changes your life on a large scale overall. But I want to go into changes on a sort of like micro level as well. So I think the first thing is my relationship with myself. That's got to be what it has changed for me the most. So in terms of my levels of respect for myself, levels of responsibility, finding a way to love and accept myself and all of the healing that's involved in that as well. But it all, you know, saying things like finding ways to love and accept yourself and all of the healing and stuff like that, like, it sounds kind of really lovely and nice and, you know, kind of, what's the word, you know, not painful. It is fucking painful. The thing is with the left-hand path is I feel like it's kind of spirituality on crack in a way, because the way in which, the reason you change so quick is because it brings about this chaos, this death, this destruction, and it forces you into change. Therefore you end up experiencing kind of both extremes, in the sense that, like, okay, if you want to learn responsibility, then you're gonna go through this thing where you are crazy irresponsible and get yourself into some shit. And it's the same goes for what was the other one? Wasn't responsibility, what was the other one? Respect. You know, going through these times in your life where you treat yourself with so much disrespect, whether that's through abusing your body, through drugs and alcohol, or food, or whatever kind of destructive behaviour you can do on like a physical level, on a mental and emotional level. You know, the way in which you see yourself, the people you surround yourself with, and how people can make you basically feel like shit about yourself. And, you know, being in abusive relationships, things like that, like, it's kind of like you have to go to the depths of everything. So you kind of experience it in the most pain possible, so that it forces you out of it, and then you're forced to do the complete opposite, because you're kind of like, I don't want to fucking go back there, that was awful. But there's a flip side to this as well, and this is something that's been very relevant in my life recently. So because there seems to be this repetitive pattern on the left-hand path of going through these kind of like death and rebirth cycles all the time, it can lead you to start romanticizing suffering. And you can end up thinking that, you know, what you're doing right now that is causing you to suffer is an act of sacrifice, and it's going to pay off later, and that, sorry, my eyelashes are falling off. And it's not that sacrifice isn't a relevant thing and that we don't have to let things go and all of that, but sometimes there's nothing on the other side of the door. Sometimes the suffering really is for nothing. So it's something you have to be careful of. Be careful not to romanticize your suffering, because I'm really guilty of that. I can go through life and be like, oh, I'm such a masochist. Like, you know, I put myself through all of these like really strenuous and like painful experiences so that I can grow. And it's just like, oh, fuck off, Dirah, you prick. And it's like, no, yeah, like, suffering is relevant. It has its place, but you kind of get a little bit, you know, when I say like, oh, you know, I'm a masochist, like, you can get fucking addicted to suffering, and then you're just a slave again. It's such a fucking like minefield. So be careful of that. If you're someone that, you know, is continuously shedding skin a bit too much, like, if you need to shed skin, but if you're shedding your skin too much, you're going to be fucking red raw, and it's going to be painful. So I'm definitely guilty of shedding skin a bit too fucking much. So to sum up that point, it's changed my life in the sense that, like, I've learned how to alchemize suffering and to use it to grow. But at the same time, I've also fallen into the trap of thinking like, okay, if I'm not suffering, then I'm not being productive, which is just fucking crazy. So yeah, don't do that. The left-hand path has also, I mean, on an obvious note, helped me, you know, helped to empower me, helped me to step into some power, right? But it's also, on the same note, been super humbling in the fact of, like, it's made me aware of how far my power goes and when it stops. You know, this fucking idea that you become all powerful and you become your own god and things like that. You become, like, when we talk about like becoming your own god, it's like, okay, you're trying to master your reality and trying to master yourself, and that's great. But you also have to understand that you are still a human being and you are still incredibly defective, and that you're not right about everything all the time, and the fact is that if you were a god, the world would fucking fall apart because you wouldn't be able to fucking handle it. So this idea of like, yes, step into that power, become your own god in the sense that you master yourself and your reality, but also have the awareness of how far your power actually goes, because not everything is under your control. And thank fuck that it's not, because if I was in control of everything in my life, I would probably be dead, because I would have inevitably wanted something that wasn't good for me, and probably carried on pursuing that path, which probably would have ended up with me dying, so in several fucking scenarios. So yeah, you need to acknowledge that you don't know everything, and the humbling part of this path is that you are consistently fucking shown that on a very consistent basis. It's just like, oh, what, you thought you knew, did you? Well, you didn't. So you're now not back at square one, but now you've got a fresh new perspective, and you can probably avoid making the same mistakes again. And then this kind of leads me on to another point. The left hand path has taught me the difference between the will, like your will, my will, and wanting. So the difference between will and want. They're not the same thing. Will is a term that is thrown around a lot when we talk about magic. Magic is the force that drives our will. But will isn't the same as want, especially when we're talking in terms of your true will. So what you think you want a lot of the time is not in line with your true will. So in the sense that on a very surface mundane level, we may want to have, I don't know, like a certain career, a certain person to be with, a certain amount of money, you know, the kind of typical desires that most people have, right? And they think, okay, well, why isn't this working out for me? Why don't I have this? Because most of the time it's not actually your true will. And your true will can be very difficult to access when you are caught up in illusions. And things that are not in alignment with your true will have an awful habit of dying and leaving your life. So when something leaves your life, it's probably doing you a favour. I know that sounds a little bit sort of like love and light spirituality, in the sense of like, oh, what's meant for you will find you. I mean, yeah, it's true to an extent. Like, obviously you need to pursue things, and it's okay to want things. I'm not saying like, oh, like, don't trust what you want. Like, no, that's not what I mean. I just mean that, you know, a lot of the time we do want things that aren't good for us. And for me, that's been a real difficulty when it comes to trusting myself, and trusting myself when I think I want something, and then being like, fuck, do I want this? Because yeah, I've done that. I've done that a lot. So whenever I'm like, oh yeah, I really want this now, I really have to check in with myself and just be like, not necessarily be like, oh, does this align with my true will, but just an acknowledgement that it might not. Because like I said, your true will can be very difficult to access if you're caught up in an illusion. So if I'm caught up in an illusion, I'm probably going to think like, yeah, it is my true will. But I have to just make a kind of, just a bit of space, and just be like, okay, I really want this thing, but I just need to let go of it, because it might not work out, because it might not be in alignment with my true will. So that's another thing that it's taught me, and that's very helpful for not becoming too attached to outcomes. I think another typical thing that the left hand path is said to teach us is discipline. And yeah, of course it's taught me discipline. You won't get anywhere in the occult as a whole, not just Left Hand Path, if you don't have some level of discipline. But for me, I can be too disciplined, and then I burn out, and then I beat myself up because I'm no longer disciplined. So that's another thing as well. It's teaching me balance. And there was a point fairly recently, probably about kind of like 6 months ago, where this whole idea of balance, I was just, you know what, I don't give a fuck about balance anymore. I'm just gonna admit and surrender to the fact that I am not a balanced person. Balance just doesn't align. I'm not balanced. There's nothing fucking balanced about me. And then I was like, hold on, no, it's not that I'm not balanced, it's that I have this preconceived idea of what balance is, and that I don't fall into that. So it's about finding your own balance. And once you find your own balance, you can identify where you need to be disciplined. And I think my final point about how Left Hand Path has changed my life is definitely around individualistic and free thought. So it's very easy, especially if you're involved in any kind of online community, to start finding yourself stuck in echo chambers and virtue signaling, and basically things coming into the occult sphere that have nothing to do with the occult sphere, and then things become political, and things become I don't want to say censored, but you might feel the need to censor yourself, and basically could just conform to another sheep mentality, except that it's conform to the black sheep mentality, where there's a herd of black sheep instead of the white sheep. So when the idea is not to be a fucking sheep at all. So that's something people don't realise, is that they start to think that a certain spiritual path has all of these other beliefs about the world attached to it, and they need to have certain opinions, need to be politically correct about absolutely fucking everything, and they're too scared to say what they actually think about things. That's something that's really important to me, that I am always thinking for myself. And it sounds obvious and it sounds like an easy thing to do, but apparently it's not for a lot of people. So when it comes to things like jumping on fucking bandwagons, it's like, absolutely not. And this is why you don't see me post about anything that's not occult related, at least in some way, because I'm not about to get involved in any kind of dialogue about shit like that, do you know what I mean? So yeah, what Left Hand Path has taught me is just like, it's okay to think for yourself, it's okay to disagree with people. You don't have to fit in with what everyone else thinks about shit. And because at the end of the day, a lot of it's just like fucking ego based anyway, and wanting people to think that you are a good person, and you don't need people to think that, you just need to know that within yourself. So to sum up, what have I talked about? Respect for the self, responsibility, love and acceptance, healing. I've talked about suffering, sacrifice, discipline, balance, and individual and free thought. So that is what the Left Hand Path has given me since I pursued it, and of course more will be revealed. So I'm going to leave this video here today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe to my channel. I post videos every Saturday at 8 PM UK time, and I will be back on that schedule regularly now after my little 2-week absence. So yeah, I will see you next week, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye for now.